Michael Jackson has been dead for 10 years, and this nigga has 2 new cases. And if you haven't watched that documentary, then I'm begging you, don't watch it. It's fucking gross. I felt like HBO was sticking baby dicks in my ears for 4 hours straight. Really nasty shit. I don't want to know all these things. Turns out, Michael Jackson allegedly likes a long gander at the anus. So they said he stares at people's buttholes. That's what they said. That's how gross the documentary was. I'm gonna say something that I'm not allowed to say. But I gotta be real. I don't believe these motherfuckers. I do not believe it. But let me qualify the statement. I am what's known on the streets as a victim blamer. You know what I mean? If somebody come up to me like, Dave, Chris Brown just beat up Rihanna. I'll be like, well, what did she do? Dave, Michael Jackson was molesting children. Well, what were those kids wearing at the time? I don't think he did it. But you know what? Even if he did do it, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? I mean, it's Michael Jackson. I know more than half the people in this room have been molested in their lives. But it wasn't no goddamn Michael Jackson, was it? This kid got his dick sucked by the king of pop. All we get is awkward Thanksgivings for the rest of our lives. You know how good it must have felt to go to school the next day after that shit? Hey, Billy, how was the weekend? How was my weekend? Michael Jackson sucked my dick. And that was my first sexual experience. If I'm starting here, then sky's the limit. I know it seems harsh, but man, somebody's got to teach these kids. There's no such thing as a free trip to Hawaii. He's gonna want to look at your butthole or something. You know why I don't believe it? You know why I don't believe it? Because if Michael Jackson's out here doing all this molesting, then why not Macaulay Culkin? Macaulay Culkin said in an interview that Michael Jackson never did anything inappropriate with him or even around him. Think about that shit. You know, I'm not a pedophile. But if I was, Macaulay Culkin's the first kid I'm fucking, I'll tell you that right now. I'd be a goddamn hero. Hey, that guy over there fucked the kid from Home Alone. And you know how hard he is to catch. My mind's telling me no. Hey, R. Kelly is different. I mean, you know, if I'm a betting man, I'm gonna put my money on he probably did that shit. I'm pretty sure he did that shit. You know, it's bad, okay? So a couple years ago, I was doing a show in Detroit, and I'm sitting backstage in my dressing room. A friend of mine comes by, this chick, Dream Hampton. Dream tells me, right before I'm going on stage, she goes, Dave, I'm working on a documentary about R. Kelly. Would you like to be in it? And I was like, nah, bitch, I'm cool. I went on stage, I just forgot about the shit. And then 2 years later, the documentary comes out, Surviving R. Kelly. And when it comes out, Dream's promoting the shit, and she keeps bringing me up. She said, I asked Dave Chappelle to be in my documentary, and he said it was too hot for TV. Bitch, I did not say that. It does not even sound like how I talk. Oh, that's too hot for TV? I would never say that shit. But I'm gonna tell you guys why I wasn't in the documentary. There's a very simple reason, and I cannot stress this point enough. The only reason that I didn't do it was because, and it's very important, I don't know this nigga at all. I don't know anything. I don't know anything that they don't tell me about. I don't hang out with this nigga, nothing. So what the fuck do I gotta be in the documentary for? This guy, R. Kelly, got another sex tape out now. Can you believe that shit? This guy makes more sex tapes than he does music. He's like the DJ Khaled of sex tapes. Another one. Like, damn, it's a lot of tapes. The new one's so bad that they didn't even show it. I've never seen anything like this. The prosecutor in Chicago came out in a press conference and read to the media a transcript of a sex tape. Have you ever heard of such a thing? This nigga read the sex tape. And it was so bad that R. Kelly sounded guilty in the transcripts. It's fucking amazing. 16 times the girl's age was mentioned. Isn't that crazy? This motherfucker is an idiot. He was fucking her like, yeah, this is the best 14-year-old pussy I've ever had in my life. And she was like, you like this 14-year-old pussy? He's like, oh yeah, I love this 14. I'm like, man, you need to shut the fuck up. You gotta give your lawyer something to work with. You're supposed to be on the tape like, this is the best 36-year-old pussy I've ever had in my life. And then your lawyer gonna be like, Your Honor, clearly my client thought that this woman was 36, as he mentioned some 16 times in the tape. They gonna know you lying though, you know what I mean? Everybody knows no such thing as good 36-year-old pussy. Doesn't matter what I say. And if you at home watching this shit on Netflix, remember, bitch, you clicked on my face. What are you doing? I can't live in this new world you're proposing. And meanwhile, while we're worrying about all this other shit, look at what's happening. They just killed another 12 people in a mass shooting in Virginia Beach. This shit's happening every week. It happens so much, I don't care anymore. I came home early from the road. I had a $12,000 suit on, because life's been going good. And I got home early and dinner was cooking. You ever come home when dinner's cooking? Doesn't that smell good? And my son saw me, and he was like, Dad's home. And he got up from the table and ran over to give me a hug, but he had chicken grease all over his face. So I stepped on him like, yo, my man. Wash these threads, son. This is an expensive suit. I don't want you to get the chicken grease all over me. And he was like, what the chicken grease? Dad, this is duck. A tear came out of my eyes. I never dreamt I'd do so well in life that I'd raise a nigga with duck grease all over his face. And we sat down, we just talked about everything. I was telling my wife about how my shows were going, and I told her my trans jokes, and she was like, oh, I hate that joke. And you know why she hates the joke? Because she's Asian. But you know what I mean? I don't make that face at the house unless we're really fighting. And me and her, like, we weren't arguing, but you know what I mean? She was just like, you need to stop doing that. And then I tried to change the subject. I go, how is school going, boys? And my sons tell me, well, we didn't have school today, technically. I'm like, well, what's going on? He said, well, there was like a school shooting drill. I never heard of this. You know what this is? They have drills that they make kids do where they practice what to do if somebody comes to shoot up their school. I'd never heard that before. I was like, what the fuck? Then I had to tell my sons the truth. I didn't want to tell them this shit. Son, listen to me. Fuck that drill. If somebody comes to your school and wants to shoot it up, I'm just gonna be honest with you. You probably gonna get shot, nigga. I'm just being real. You got a famous dad. I talk a lot of shit. They gonna be gunning for you, little buddy. Just stay low and run in a zigzag pattern and don't try to save anybody, son. Do you understand me? Why would you have kids rehearse for some shit they have no control over? All you're doing is training these kids to worry. It's the stupidest drill I've ever heard of. And while you're in there training them during these drills, well, aren't you training the shooter too? This nigga's in here listening and learning like the other kids. Sitting in the back. Where are we supposed to meet? If you're a parent, this shit is terrifying. This shit is real scary. All the parents is looking at each other crazy. Because we know as parents that one of us is raising the shooter. Just don't know which one of us it is. Probably don't be sure. Let it be a white parent. Nancy said it's you. Exponentially higher than the rest of us. Shooting up school is a white jinky thing. Fucking crazy. I hated school too. You never hated me. Heal everybody in school. It's fucking crazy. Just do what I did, nigga. Task things. Have you skipped school, nigga? Skip school. Take a walk and meet some other kids. Just things, nigga. Try drugs. Have you tried drugs out, nigga? I'm like. Some scary shit. I've given this a lot of thought. I don't see any peaceful way to disarm America's whites. There's only one thing that's going to save this country from itself. Same thing it always saves this country from itself. That is African Americans. Right. And I know the question that a lot of y'all have in your minds is, should we do it? Yeah, fuck yeah, we should do it. Listen, no matter what they say or how they make you feel, remember, this is your country too. It is incumbent upon us to save our country. And you know what we have to do. This is a fucking election year. We got to be serious. Every able-bodied African American must register for a legal firearm. Do you know this strip club in D.C. called Camelot? Is that still open? Yes. Well, I know what I'm doing after the show. I gotta tell you, The other day, my wife called me creepy. You know, I frequent strip clubs. I don't want, it's something I like to do. And my wife said I was creepy because I go to strip clubs by myself. Is that creepy? I think that's better than going with the fellas. That's creepy to me. Hey, y'all, let's all go to the strip club and get our dicks hard together as a group of friends. Drive home in a quiet car and not talk about any of the things we've seen or done. No, nigga, I go by myself. But my wife doesn't understand why I go to the strip club. It has nothing to do with sex, you understand? I need a pinch of sexual energy in a room to relax, but it's more about being out. I like the music. A few naked chicks in there, it just makes me feel good. But I'm not trying to like socialize or meet anybody. You know, sometimes I go to the strip club and I bring a book. I do. And I sit right by the stage because the reading light is better. One time I went to a strip club, and this is weird. I don't know why. The stripper, for some reason, told me her real name. I know, so I left. She didn't understand. She was like, "Where are you going?" I was like, "Good night, Deborah." God bless her, but my wife is mistaken about my life. She told me once she thinks my job is fun. My job is a job. I'm fun. You know, all last year, I was touring with arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest, living comedian, Chris Rock. Me and him toured all year last year. And right before that tour started, Chris was involved in what we blacks might even consider a goddamn 9/11. Chris got slapped in the face at the Oscars by Will Smith, which was one of the craziest things I'd ever seen. In fact, if you watch it live on television like I did, when it happened, I thought it was fake. I did, and I wasn't sure, so you know what I did? I waited, because I'm like you, I know Chris. I waited like 30, 40 minutes, as long as it would take him to get to another party. And I called him on FaceTime, and he picked up. As soon as he picked up, he said, "You was the only nigga I had to answer the phone for." Apparently, Obama and Oprah, everybody had called this nigga to see if everything was all right. And I thought it was fake. I didn't know. So I asked him, I go, "Well, you know." He said, "What?" I said, "Well, did it hurt?" And he said, "Yes, nigga, it hurt." And then I knew that it was real. And then, and only then, was I offended. And I wasn't just offended that he got slapped. That was only half of it. The real offensive part was that after he slapped him, this nigga Will just sat down and enjoyed the rest of his evening. It was crazy. It was just... The fuck is this? And then all year, we was touring, and I couldn't wait to see what he was gonna say in his special about this slap. And I toured him all year, but the night he taped his special, Chris was one of these guys that's crafty. You never know what he's gonna say until he really says it. So I went to see him tape his special. He taped it right up the street in Baltimore. Now, you guys are from DC, so you know about Baltimore. We all know that through the years, DC has been through some very, very tough times. Sadly, Baltimore is still in a very tough time. Not everybody in the world really can understand the depth of Baltimore. Baltimore is so desperate that Tupac and his mother moved from Baltimore to Oakland for a better life. And Chris Rock went so hard in the paint, and I can't believe he did this, he shocked a Baltimore crowd. I didn't even know that was possible. I started doing comedy around here. Shocked them. And you know what he said that got him? He looked at the crowd, he walked out. I didn't expect him to say this. He looked at the crowd, it was all black, Baltimore black. Even if you rich and black in Baltimore, you know them niggas is traumatized about something. And Chris shocked him, and this is what he said. He went to that crowd. He said, I refuse to be a victim. And the crowd said, oh. And I was backstage looking like, nigga, watch the tape. Everything's funny till it happens to you. 3 months, a mere 3 months after that terrible attack that Chris Rock endured, I was on stage at the Hollywood Bowl, and a lunatic jumped out of the crowd and attacked me. Now, I gotta tell you, if it happens to you, you don't even know what the fuck is happening. It was like slow motion. I just looked over. I don't know this nigga. And I was looking, I said, oh my God, I'm being attacked. And this motherfucker was raggedy. He jumped at me. He was like, ah! I'm old, but I'm fast. I caught this motherfucker's head with my hand and pulled his hoodie over his eyes. I can still feel his head in my hand. It was spongy. He had been growing dreadlocks. Not the beautiful dreads that Rastafarians grow. These were accidental LA homeless dreads. This shit had leaves and sticks and bottle caps and shit in it, some kind of grease. I was like, ugh, like this, and then I fell down. And he knocked me all the way on the ground. And I was like, man, this is a bad situation. I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna die or what's gonna happen. But in that moment of vulnerability, you know what occurred to me that had never occurred to me before in my life? In that moment, it occurred to me that bodyguards should not wear dress shoes to work. Travis. This nigga Travis came out slipping and sliding on some kind of beautiful loafer and fell flat on his back. Pop. I said, oh my God. Now both of us are down. I gotta handle this shit myself. So I popped right back, boom. And then the kid that knocked me down, he popped out, boom, and we looked at each other and realized at the same time, I was bigger than him. And that motherfucker took off running. And I started to chase him, and I said, fuck him. And I picked the microphone up. So I'm gonna finish this show now. That's right. For 3 months before that, I'd been making fun of Chris Rock. And people would ask me all the time. They'd say, Dave, what would you do if you were Chris Rock and Will Smith slapped you in the face? And to this day, the answer is the same. Well, I don't know what I would have done. I've never been in a situation that extreme. But I do know now what Will Smith would not have done. And that is enjoy the rest of his evening. Man, listen. We gave that kid a good while. We was whooping his ass. Not we, I mean, I was on stage trying to think of a joke to tell, but they was beating this nigga up right behind me. Everybody could see it. Everybody could see it. And I'm sitting up there trying to think of what to say. And I'm tongue-tied. Me, of all people, can't think of anything to say. Look at my karma. Just that moment. Of all the people in the world, Chris Rock walks from backstage, walks up to me in front of 20,000 people, grabs the mic out of my hands and looks at the crowd and goes, was that Will Smith? Man, motherfuckers fell out of their chairs laughing. I was standing there looking stupid. I was fucking furious, because I'm thinking in my mind, nigga, this is my attack. You got attacked 3 months ago. Now you have jokes. So I snatched the mic back from Chris and tried to get one off, but my shit did not go good at all. I didn't know what to say. I was just like, it was a trans man. And the crowd was like, boo. It's LA, we like trans people, boo. I know, I felt so bad. I felt so bad. But I know why I did it. You'd have to be there to understand, but man, when that guy tackled me, it was like it's like a movie or something. You gotta picture this. Picture a famous person you like. Every famous person you could imagine was at that show. It was like the biggest night that Hollywood had ever seen. And when that guy tackled me, he cleared the bleachers. I had to watch the tape afterwards to know this happened, but as soon as he tackled me, Jamie Foxx was the first motherfucker that jumped out of the crowd. He was wearing a white cowboy hat, like he knew this shit was gonna happen to him. Never seen this nigga in a cowboy hat before. And Jamie started chasing that motherfucker around like any given Sunday. And that kid was fast as shit, was juking and shaking, and they broke Jamie's ankles, and he just kept running. And then Jon Stewart from The Daily Show ran from backstage and jumped at this motherfucker like Super Jew. He was like, ah! And the kid seen John coming, so he jumped back, and John went flying that way. And this kid was fast. And then he turned around. He sees the emergency exit. He starts running for the emergency exit. Just before he got to the door, motherfucking Puff Daddy from Bad Boy Records jumped in front of the door. That nigga was like, Boy, Puffy got that motherfucker. And then every celebrity just ran out because every celebrity saw themselves in me, and they just started beating the fuck out of that kid. And I know Chris was backstage looking like, nobody helped me. Everybody hates Chris. Look, it was way more intense than what you guys might have read. I don't know what you read, but the kid, while we was beating on him, reached in his waistband, pulled out 22 caliber pistol. That shit was mayhem. Everybody started screaming, oh my God. Oh my God, he's got a gun. He's got a gun. And then I got scared. I was in the back, but I was scared because I knew that everybody that was with me was armed. Yes, if they had shot and killed this kid on stage at the Hollywood Bowl, like I pay you to do, Travis, but Travis G'd up. Travis wrestled the gun out of the kid's hand, and then he took it like this and tried to chamber the round, and he couldn't. So he pulled the trigger, and it wasn't a gun. A knife would pop out in front. This is kid was in the game. Some scary shit. So the next night, even though I didn't have a show, I got to get right back on stage. Show. Someone in the audience screamed out, Dave, what happened with the attack? And I didn't know there was journalists in the room. All I said, this nigga has a knife that I got to find as a gun. I got 6 more weeks of bad press for that joke. I didn't even do nothing to this thing. That was not right. That was not right. And then the New York Post went to the jail and interviewed my attacker like he was some kind of hero. And I read that interview. Turns out the entire act was my fault. Yes, I triggered him. I don't need to. I had done jokes about my home, but turns out this young man was homeless. If I need there's no weapon on this. But I will say, for a homeless counseling, we had incredible sense. Oh, and they said I traded him because I had done LGBTQ jokes, and it turns out this fellow was a B. That was the headline in the article. It said, Dave Chappelle's alleged attacker is bisexual. I said, alleged attacker? To me. So on Friday, I decided that I don't want my name on the school. Hear me out. The Ellington family is my family. When this controversy came out, when the students were angry, at the height of their anger, they said, we still want to name the theater after you.
They taught the kids about the nuance of art and activism. And I feel, a great deal of success. And it came around. So it's not that they did not want to give this to me. They're still my family. And I'm not going to say I don't want it. I'm going to say I'll defer it. Rather than give this theater my name, I would like to give these students my message to them. So it is with great honor that I unveil the new name of this theater, the Gerard Carmichael Theater. I'm just kidding. I'm totally joking. Let me see if I can get this here. This theater should be called the Theater for Artistic Freedom and Expression. I want that for myself, and I want it for every student that's educated at this school. And when and if you are ever ready, you can just looking at his face before all that disgrace, that I looked and I said, I could do that. I told my father, and my father said, well, then just do it. That's why I wouldn't even know where to start. And he said, well, look in the phone book. It was before the internet, if you're young. We used to have a book with phone numbers in it of. My father found for me the local comedy club in Washington, D.C. I called him. I found out when open mic night was, and I started to go there on Tuesday nights, just watch. And then one night I went on a weekend. I would get my money together and I would go to this comedy club and I would just watch these comedians. And sometimes they would talk to me. And I told one of the comedians after a show one night, I said, man, I really want to try to do this. And he said, if you want to be a good comedian, you should know how to act. I said, why? And he says, he didn't explain it. I said, okay, and I told my parents, and this is how I came to find out about Duke Ellington. My mother, she said, there's a place you can go where you can learn to act right here in Washington. It's a high school. I said, you mean I would get out of Eastern? The school year was already in full swing, and Ellington has a policy that they don't let people just come in the middle of the year. But Linda Gravatt, who was the head of the theater department at the time, very graciously took a meeting with me and my mother, and I get emotional thinking about it. Anybody that went here, you remember what it was first like when you first walked through the door? And it was in the afternoon and everyone was in their arts classes and the girls had tutus on and everyone was weird and walking around the hallway like you weren't sure where anyone was supposed to be, and you could hear people practicing their horns and shit all through the hallways. There was art bouncing off the walls. The minute I walked through the door, there was a gallery of all these children's work, and these pictures were amazing. My first thought, when I walked through that door, I'm not good enough to be here, I'm sure. Miss Gravatt sat me down, she told me about the school, and you remember Miss Gravatt, she was very businesslike, but also very warm. She was intimidating, but palpably kind. She was a paradox of a human being. And she gave me a date for an audition. My mother said, okay, Dave, it's on you. Now, those of you who know me know that I didn't prepare for that audition. That audition was like a possession. It was just something that I was proud to have. But But as the days got closer, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta get something together. I didn't even know how to do an audition. I'd never done it before. So I went, I said, what do I need? They said a monologue. So I looked up monologue. And I went to the library, the MLK library, this huge library. So I gotta find something. And I found a piece in one of those yellow script books. It was a monologue by Mark Twain called The Judge's Spirited Woman. I learned it in a night. You know, it was not hard for me to memorize things. The next day, it was a Saturday, I think, and I came to the school, and they auditioned in what used to be this room, the original theater at Duke Ellington School of the Arts. And all the department heads sat in here, and the lights are in your eyes, and there's a bunch of kids who already go to the school who come on Saturday just to see who might be coming. And I talked to all these kids before I went in, and these kids were nothing like the kids at Easton. They were like them, but they were different. They were weird and funny and self-deprecating and things like this. And I remember I came out on stage and I did my audition, and it was like terrible. I froze up in the beginning. I started, and then I said, wait a minute, I'm messing up. I'm going to start again. And I was nervous, and I was scared. And in the middle of the audition, in the middle of the monologue, one of the teachers, Fred Leach, he said, he goes, okay, that's enough. I said, well, there's still a little more. He goes, no, that is enough, he said. And I can't tell you, like, I was crushed. Without saying it's disapproval, I knew it stunk. And I was right. When I walked in here, I knew I wasn't good enough to go to this school. And I thought to myself, fuck this school, that's stupid anyway. The first year theater, there's a question that they ask students from time to time. And it's a make or break question. And when you ask this question, you don't know. And the question is this. They say, why do you want to act? Now, if you say anything like, I want to be a star, you're not going to get in. I didn't know that. And I figured I already blew the audition, so I told him the truth. He said, why do you want to act? I don't. That's what I said. And they said, well, then why are you here? I said, because I want to be a comedian, and some comedian told me that if I want to be a good comedian, I need to learn how to act. And the teachers look at each other and go, thank you very much, and I left. And I was walking down the hallway, kicking rocks. There was a kid that already went here. His name was Eko Handy. And Eko said, hey, man, I listened to him talking about you. I said, you did? He said, you're in. I said, what? He said, you're in. Well, it didn't make any sense. I worked very hard, not to get his approval, but to avoid his disapproval. When we were coming up, they had a thing called juries. I don't know, do they still do juries? Juries is when all the department heads give you a piece to work on, and they sit there and they make you perform the piece, and the criticism is brutal. We were kids. We didn't understand that they were preparing us for a hard world ahead. If you wanted a profession in art, they would tear us to shreds. The stress of a jury. And man, I never practiced. Because I didn't want to act. At an improv class, a teacher named Geraldine Gilstrap told me that I should stop doing funny pieces, that I should try to stretch myself artistically. And maybe I had more in me than comedy. And at the time, I took offense to that. So because she said that, after school that very night, I went to Comedy Club. The first time I signed the list and I waited and I got on and killed it. Killed it. Must have been 35 years ago, night after night. I killed it. Show up at the pavilion. Crazy. That was a very difficult decision to make. The entire world told me I was crazy, but I was sure. I was being true to myself and to something that I learned at Ellington. I was the media fistball in shelters and artists. I was a manic. I was a god of the food. It's like pictures that I could paint with words, the way I could engage with the audience. I understood as it happened. I was very much be able to do this. And I protected that. But I knew that if I took the money, they would expect me to behave differently. And I wasn't willing to accept it. So I quit. And when I quit, it was a very difficult time in my life. And I was paying the beating, but man, fuck show business and stuff. And then one day I was in Panama City, Panama, and I was at the hotel, and I looked at the lobby, there was a painting of Abraham Lincoln. I looked close, it wasn't a painting, it was all pennies, just pennies on the black counties, arranged into the place of Abraham Lincoln. And I asked the guy, I said, how much is that penny worth? He said, $600,000, sir. And I looked at the pennies that made up the painting, and I was like, that's like $300 worth of pennies. Light bulb went in my head. I realized how valuable some of the biggest wars and crimes and scandals in history were financed. They kept about art, and artists, if you're good at it, never behave. So come on. Tough. And then I gave up. I said, this is probably it. I accepted the fact that the career I thought I was going to have was over, but I started to rediscover just my heart for its own sake. Although comedy clubs, I worked for way less money than I ever had, and I enjoyed it more than any work I ever did. Probably the best work I'll ever do. It was so honest, so sincere. There was no media, there was no studio, there was no spooking, just me and the crowds. And I did it night after night, and some of the short cups with the and when suddenly people started to notice, and all started to see that guy toward year. And again, and then the year after that, and then the year after that. And then, Lauren Michaels asked me to do Saturday Night Live. And it wasn't just like he asked me. He's poetry. I didn't even know. He gave this whole long speech. Okay. And I read some book about Lauren Michaels starting Saturday Night Live. And I read the speech that he gave at the choir when he wanted him to host the show. And I said, holy shit, same shit he said to me. When I did it, that was an enormous amount of pleasure. It took 12 years. Because I never tell him, because I didn't talk to the India. And I remember I signed my massive contract on my way to my mark for the monologue. When you do live television, they count down 10 seconds, 30 seconds. Are you sure this contract is good? It's good, just sign it. It's good. 22 seconds. Oh, man, you better not be picking me. 10, 9, 8, 36, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I walked out on that stand and I said, it was laughter. It was laughter. It was easy work. Got an Emmy for that one, too.